welcome to another episode of the Steward Leadership Podcast, where we speak to steward leaders, people who see themselves as stewards of planet Earth and humanity, and strongly believe that it is possible to do well by doing good, both personally and organizationally, in today's world. These are people that are taking on today's existential challenges like climate change, social inequality, or cyber vulnerability head on, and showing the way that yes, there is a better way to make money and to be successful by addressing these very challenges. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me on the show Mariam Omar from Brandix, the apparel company out of Sri Lanka. Mariam, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about the company and yourself and your role in it, and the background of how the family comes to from inception to where it is now.
Sure. So Brandix is an apparel manufacturing company, and that's today. But over the last 55 years, we've grown from a single textile trading company that my grandfather bought and ran to a global manufacturing company. And so we're headquartered in Sri Lanka, but we have manufacturing locations in India, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Haiti. Those are the locations.
Excellent. And your role?
Yeah. So my grandfather started the business, and then my father joined and really built it with his brothers. And now they're friends and key leaders in the company. So I joined in April 2020. And initially, my sisters and I, all of us thought we didn't want to join the business. And we studied maths and mechanical engineering between the three of us. But then when I was working in university, I realized that there's so much inefficiency in the apparel industry. And I just felt like there's an opportunity here to have an impact at scale. And that kind of got me excited. So straight after university, I was working I worked at Nike for a while, and then I didn't get my H-1B visa, unfortunately.
Were you in Beaverton?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So then I moved back, and I was really upset at the time. But everything happens for a reason. And my mom has a small nonprofit that works with women who have children with special needs, so autism, Down syndrome, etc. So she started it, and my cousins, my sisters, and I, we each have taken a few years of our lives to really sit and grow it. So when I moved back, I thought about what I wanted to do. And then I said, let me work on this for 2 years. And it gave me a lot of meaning. And it was a micro factory, 28 women, their children. We designed products. We sold them in Sri Lanka and to a few countries outside. And then in 2020, April 2020, as COVID, the onset of COVID, I joined Brandix. So I moved from a micro factory to a macro factory.
So from Nike to in the US to a social enterprise looking after women to Brandix. So there was no family pressure. You did this because you wanted to.
I did, but I think the stories you're told as a kid, and even though I was always told, do what you want, do what you like, there's no pressure, I think what's ingrained comes through. And I remember thinking that the value I was adding at boutique, the social enterprise, was starting to diminish, so I needed to move on and hire my replacement there. And then when I was exploring different jobs, interviewing, then my father said, why don't you come in? Now's a good time. And because everything became virtual, I still haven't answered your question about what I do.
Yes, that's okay.
But I joined a project that looked at all our processes end to end and kind of saw, okay, at this time when the world is slowing down, what can we do differently? So with that, I was the HR project manager. And even though I studied fiber science and engineering, I love people, stories, and we're seemingly so disconnected today. So I think stories and people really build that connective tissue in a company. So I joined in HR and training, talent development for that project. And then I moved to communications, product development, and now I'm part of the transformation team as well.
Which means that you're looking at the business as a whole. as
Yeah.
part of the transformation. Of course, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. But we'll come back to what Brandix is doing. But before that, when you were working in your mom's social enterprise, what did you see? What were the pain points
So
for society?
yeah, for them, those women they couldn't do a 9 to 5 or even a factory work job. They had kids that they needed to take care of, take them to school. And how it was born was the mothers would come and drop their children off at this school. And then they would just be sitting there till the children finished because it didn't make sense to pay for a bus to go back home. And then my mother started teaching them needlework as a pastime. And then we thought, okay, it's actually coming out really well. We can do something with this and we can monetize what they're making. So one of their pain points was really they couldn't work fixed hours and the work needed to be around what their children were doing. So even when they would come to us, the children would come too, and we'd have our paper packaging was then painted by the adults with special needs, and some of them would do cross stitch as well. And it gave me a lot of joy because my sister would run the painting.
Yes.
I would do the marketing.
But your mom didn't need to do this. She was from a wealthy family, and she chose to teach needlework and that kind of work to women, and to use people with special abilities to engage in this as well. And then found an opportunity to say, okay, to make this sustainable, I think we can monetize this. And so now it's running as a successful social enterprise.
Yeah.
Okay. She didn't need to do this.
No, she didn't. And even if you look at the Brandix journey, a lot of it comes from our own internal drive. And I've always been told that you're happier when you're doing something for someone else.
The only way you understand what it means to receive is when you learn how to give.
Yeah.
It's in the giving that you receive the life. Wonderful. So coming back to Brandix, walk me through. How did it start and where are you now? And then I want to talk about some of the issues associated with the apparel industry, but just give us a quick summary on where did you all start and where is it now? 55 years, you said.
55 years.
Okay.
And we initially started as a textile trading company, but we're talking about we didn't need to do it. But my father really wanted to buy a car in his 20s in Sri Lanka. And you could only do that if you were exporting and you were bringing foreign exchange into the country. So he was adamant to figure out a way to get a car. And then he got an order and placed it at a factory that my grandfather owned. And the person running the factory really messed the order up. So, and then he was freaking out and my grandfather said, okay, you run it then, So that's how he got into apparel manufacturing.
Interesting, yeah.
And then lots of customers had buying offices in Sri Lanka at the time. So we grew through joint ventures. And we initially manufactured lots of different categories: children's wear, swimwear, T-shirts, underwear. But today our core business is in manufacturing men's and women's underwear. And then we do sleep and lounge. A small part of our business is activewear. And we're actively growing that.
And then, who are your customers, key customers around the world?
So our two largest customers are Victoria's Secret and PVH that owns Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, etc.
Got you. Very good. What a story. So interesting. It started out from a personal need, and then it grew into something like this, which is.
And what I found really interesting, and part of our purpose statement is also addressing unmet needs, not just for our customers, but also for our employees. And his life has really grown. My mom's, our whole family's life has grown. But again, he didn't need to do this, but he gets excited when he sees other people's growth. Like, what do you want? And are you able to get that by working in the company?
So what started out as something that is very natural and human. I want things for myself. I want to be rich. I want to be comfortable. I want to be successful. I want to buy a car.
Yeah.
Where and how did that turn for your dad from now I want to see other people succeed and other people happy? I'm
remembering all these stories. I think for him, it's always, he feels really lucky with the people in his life, his friends, the school. So I think he's always acknowledged the part luck has played in where he is. So with wanting and needing, even running the first factory, his friend from school joined him and they did it together. So it has, he knew that he couldn't do it alone, and he knew that he couldn't be the only one being successful. So it wasn't just his needs.
But somewhere down the line, that success that he continued to accumulate turned into gratitude. Which is not something that happens to everybody. So that's good. Okay, we'll dive deeper into Brandix a bit more. But first, let's talk about the apparel industry at overall, especially in your part of the world. There's been a lot of concerns and criticisms about the industry in terms of labor use and other things. What are some of those concerns, and how has Brandix responded to it?
Yeah, so we have just in Sri Lanka, approximately 300 apparel manufacturers, and 5 contribute to a significant portion of the revenue coming in from exports. So it's fragmented, and we've tried to have an association. So Sri Lanka as a whole is seen as an ethical manufacturing destination. But I think the smaller you are, sometimes the harder it is to maintain ethical labor practices. But we've been really lucky because our customers have had the same ethos. They've always, from the beginning, wanted sustainable, social and environmentally sustainable manufacturing. So for me, in Sri Lanka in particular, and at Brandix, I don't see labor as a concern because we've done a lot of work to uplift our workforce. We don't want a sewing machine operator to be a sewing machine operator for her whole life, and we definitely don't want her kid to be a sewing machine operator. So and the industry in Sri Lanka as a whole has done a really good job to uplift their status, how they're seen in society, and uplift their livelihoods. For me, what's more concerning is the impact that the apparel industry has on the environment, because the more you produce, the more there is, and do we really need that much? And I'm a yoga teacher. I'm always struggling to find the balance between that lifestyle of less is more versus, okay, how can we give people what they need and what they want?
The fashion industry is exactly the opposite of that.
Yes.
Right? Consume, even if you don't need to.
Yeah.
So coming back to the labor practices, tell me, how are you doing that? How are you taking care of the people? What exactly are you doing?
So this started really early on, and our social sustainability is focused on 3 pillars. So provide, educate, and engage. And my favorite one is engage because we've always been mindful that we don't want to come and do a top-down, okay, here's a donation of something you may or may not need. So we continuously engage with our employees and the communities with which we operate in to see, are we doing purposeful interventions? Does it mean something to them? And a really nice example that we have is in 2007, we did a social impact assessment that looked at all our employees and each community within our factories. And we found that clean drinking water was a big concern for our employees. And that's a basic human need. So from 2007 to today, we've had a very focused approach. So we first started with caring for our own. And we said all our employees have to have access to clean drinking and sanitation facilities, clean drinking water and sanitation facilities. And then from that, we said, okay, we also want our employees to feel proud of working at the company. So this we didn't need to do, but we really believe in, if you're physically, mentally, and emotionally happy, it will benefit the overall ecosystem. So then we started this concept called Model Village, where we said, okay, our employees have water, but what does the community need? And started installing tube wells, agricultural wells in key, like whether it's a temple or a school, key community access points. And we've had over 380,000 beneficiaries over the last several years.
This costs money. All of this sounds like it costs money. How do you balance the idea of profitable growth and maximum profits while still doing all of this?
For us, I think it's important that the people who work in our company have a good quality of life. So while it's a cost, I think it's not actually a cost in the long term because it creates longevity,
And
loyalty.
pays itself off in many ways
Yeah.
because of loyalty and higher productivity and all those things.
Yeah, and when we've had a crisis, the way our factories and communities have come together has been really, really
Give me an example of
admirable.
that, a crisis where they came together.
So COVID-19 was a
yes.
crisis, and unfortunately, we came under a lot of attack, which we didn't have a strong communication team, let alone a crisis communication team at the time. So we didn't know how to deal with it, and the media just went crazy when Sri Lanka thought that there were no COVID cases, and we detected one through a random PCR test, one employee who had tested positive, and then we found that the whole factory, 95% of them were asymptomatic but tested positive, and then that led to a lot of fear in the country, which led to a lot of, I'm thinking of the right word, but misinformation about us. And it was really, really amazing to see how everyone, myself, like people in the company, we gathered, we created a roster for those who had tested positive. So we would call each of them, like I was assigned 10 people, each person was assigned 10 people to check on them, check on their families. And the way the misinformation was spreading and we didn't know how to contain it, I really thought that, okay, it's over. We won't survive this. Everyone will think we're the worst company in the world and employees will leave. But with every person I called, with every factory visit thereafter, we didn't lose our employees. A public perception changed briefly, but the way we rallied together.
And was it the employees themselves who came forward?
Yeah, it was the employees themselves who helped each other. And that's how I think that's a moment when we really leaned on each other to come out of it. And there was no finger pointing or blaming the factory manager.
And that's culture right there. I mean, obviously, you've been instilling these values in the culture from many, many years. So that was not just a one-off by chance happening. It happened because of years of 50 years of building the culture, right? Yeah.
And another thing that shows how like collectively each of the employees contributes, and that's like not just a company thing, it's all the people. One in 10 blood donors in Sri Lanka is a Brandix employee, and we're the largest corporate blood donor in Sri Lanka. So no one is forced to donate blood. We just facilitate it at our factories and offices, and they all volunteer to do that. So I think it's the culture. It's collectively we want to do good, and no one is pushing us. It's not a compliance requirement. It's just, and that was another purposeful intervention. What does the community need? What do we have that we can give?
Wonderful. So moving on to environmental sustainability. Now, Brandix achieved the world's first net zero carbon status for a manufacturing facility in 2019. The world's first. Coming out of Sri Lanka. That's pretty commendable. What did you do? First of all, why did you aspire to do this? And what did you do that made you so successful at it and become the world's first?
Yeah. Can I go back to 2008?
Absolutely, you can.
Yeah. So we, again, it's part of our culture, and my dad's mother loves her garden. To this day, she spends an hour looking at her garden, and we've grown up just seeing her tend to nature. And I think that filtered down to her kids and then in turn us. So we know that the apparel industry has a negative impact on the environment. So even before sustainability was a trending topic, I remember my uncle looking at different machinery we can use to reduce water when stone washing jeans, for example, or just different things to reduce the environmental impact. And then in 2007, we were like, okay, how can we do a cost efficient manufacturing facility that was environmentally friendly? So in 2008, we achieved the world's first LEED platinum rated factory for one of our manufacturing plants, and we did this with Marks and Spencer. And doing that,
What do you mean did this with Marks and Spencer?
Marks and Spencer was the customer that was manufacturing in that factory.
That you were manufacturing for.
Yeah, and Marks and Spencer had a very comprehensive Plan A program to drive more sustainable apparel manufacturing.
Okay, so that helped, yeah.
Yeah, so we've really learned from our customers, and then also learned from the industry and external parties as well, like outside the industry. So when we did that, so that was the world's first for us. And then when we did that, we realized, okay, if we keep measuring our impact, then we know what we need to benchmark and how we need to reduce it. And net zero has been a big thing for my father because he believes on-site is what you need to change. He has been adamantly against buying carbon credits to offset your impact. So that's why net zero carbon was so important for us. And when we established that factory in 2019, it was the largest solar panel installation in Sri Lanka, about 1.8 megawatts of solar energy installed on the roof. So how we achieved net zero was really through resource optimization and renewable energy.
Amazing. And who would have thought the world's first manufacturing facility in the industry, which is net zero carbon, would come from Sri Lanka?
Yeah.
That's a very proud moment
We're proud
for the
of
country and for the region as a whole.
And if I can just add about the region, so I think there are lots of different factors that have contributed to this. But for example, when you look at the LEED platinum from 2000, January 1st, 2000 to 2008, December 31st, including our factory, there were only 21 LEED certified facilities. And then the next 8 years, if you look at, there were 178 across India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. So I like to think that the more you do, you create a collective, and
you started a movement.
And we can't do it alone, right? We need our customers, and we need the other people in the industry as well.
And that's good. I mean, you learn from Marks and Spencer, and then you encourage a whole lot of others to do it. That's the way to do it. Nobody can address these challenges on their own alone. Okay, wonderful. Before we wrap up, so lots of accolades, lot of great work on social and environmental, and doing it in a way that actually doesn't become a cost problem, but actually becomes a growth story. The more you do this, the more you grow, and the more you benefit, everybody benefits. It's a win-win-win story. What's next? What are you looking at on the horizon for the next 10, 20, 30 years as your father continues? He's currently running the company, but someday you will perhaps. What's the aspiration going forward for Brandix and for you personally?
For me personally, I always wonder, is there something else that I need to do? What's my personal purpose? But what gets me really excited and energized is the impact that we can have at scale. So my father's new thing right now is he says, okay, we need to convert our sewing machine operators now and view them as the Formula One driver. So how can we ensure that they are getting through automation, efficiency, optimization, whatever, that they're getting everything they need to sew the garment to the best of their ability. So changing that perception, how they view themselves, how the rest of the factory staff view them, and how can we really build that Formula One driver concept. So that's something he's really pushing hard for, because today we have so many stories where over the last 18 years, they'll start as a machine operator and then move up, become a manager in HR. But now we're like, no, let's elevate this role so you're not seeing beyond it. This is the best role you can get. So that's something that we are working on and kind of looking at what other things that we need to look at to make this possible. So everyone else is the support crew. How can...
Again, continuing to invest in people so that they grow and the company grows and everybody grows.
Yeah.
So fast forward 10, 15 years, you've mentioned today a lot of times that you get the maximum satisfaction or impact when you see other people growing and thriving. What are you doing 15 years from now? What impact are you creating if you were to just have a wish list and see yourself in the future?
I was in India at our park before coming here, and I met the second employee we hired in Vizag, so about 18 years ago. And today she's a manager in HR, and just seeing how her life has really grown. So for me, I just hope I have had an impact. I just want more stories like that. I don't know where or what. I'll go where the current takes me, but I just want to have meaningful stories.
So you keep your eyes and ears open, your heart open, and look for those opportunities, because those opportunities maybe we can't think about them today. Who knows what comes up in the industry tomorrow, and you will continue to drive profit with purpose.
Yes.
Is that a fair summary?
Yes, I think
Wonderful.
so.
Wonderful. Well, Mariam, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope all of you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And the fact that once again we see that when leaders, business leaders decide to do well by doing good, it is indeed possible. Here's a story that is a success story for 55 years and counting. Mariam, thank you very much for giving us some of your time today.
Thank you.